You're 24. You just got your first real paycheck. Not the internship check, not the part-time thing, the actual salary. You go out to dinner and don't do math in your head before ordering. You upgrade the apartment. You're finally living like the version of yourself you've been waiting to become. Then something weird happens. 3 years go by, your salary goes up, and you feel exactly as financially stuck as you did the day you graduated. Every raise disappears. Every month resets to zero. Nobody around you seems to be doing any better, so you figure this must just be what being in your 20s feels like. It's not. My name is Nick, and today we're going through the financial mistakes that feel completely normal right up until the moment they've already cost you $1 million. Before we get into these, I want to introduce you to someone. His name is Tyler. Tyler is 27, makes $62,000 a year, has a decent job, a social life, and by every visible measure, looks like he's doing fine. He's not reckless. He's not gambling his savings on crypto. He just made a series of completely ordinary financial decisions that most people make without a second thought. By the time he's 40, those decisions will have cost him somewhere between $800,000 and $1.5 million in wealth he should have had. And the genuinely terrifying part is that Tyler would never guess that because none of it felt like a mistake at the time. We're going to follow Tyler through each of these, and if you start recognizing yourself in him, good. That's the whole point. Mistake number 1, he didn't negotiate his salary. When Tyler got his job offer at 23, they offered him $52,000 and he said yes immediately. He was so relieved to have the job that negotiating felt greedy. He didn't want to risk them pulling the offer over a conversation about money. That single moment of social discomfort avoidance is going to cost him over $1 million. Here's the math that should genuinely upset you. Carnegie Mellon economist Linda Babcock studied exactly this scenario and found the lifetime earning gap between people who negotiate their first salary and people who don't sits somewhere between $600,000 and $1.5 million. Not because the first job pays that much more, but because every single raise, bonus, and retirement match for the rest of your career is calculated as a percentage of your base salary. A higher base doesn't just mean more now, it means a higher floor that compounds upward every single year for decades. And here's the part that should make you want to put your fist through a wall. In surveys of over 50,000 hiring managers, 76% said they had room to increase the offer by 5 to 10%. They just weren't going to volunteer it. Meanwhile, 64% of job seekers accepted the first number without a single counteroffer, and of the people who did negotiate, 94% kept the offer. And the fear of losing the job by asking is almost entirely fictional. The fix is one sentence. Something like, I'm really excited about this role. Based on my research on the market rate, I was expecting something closer to X. Is there any flexibility? That's it. 30 seconds of mild discomfort versus $1 million. Tyler couldn't do it. You can. Mistake number 2, he treated his 20s like a financial practice round. Tyler told himself he'd start investing when things settled down. After the student loans, after the move, after the raise. That moment never came because it never does. And every year it didn't come was a year of compound interest Tyler burned. If Tyler had started putting $300 a month into a basic S&P 500 index fund at 22, by 62, he'd have around $1.9 million. But Tyler waited until 32. Same $300 a month, same fund, same everything, just a 10-year delay. By 62, he has $680,000, a $1.2 million gap from 1 decade of waiting, despite contributing the exact same amount every month. That's compound interest doing what compound interest does. It doesn't care how smart you are or how good your stock picks are. It cares about one thing: time. And time is the one thing your 20s are full of and your 40s are short on. The median Gen Z retirement balance right now is roughly $4,800. That number should sit with you for a moment. $4,800. Meanwhile, Fidelity's guideline is to have roughly 1 times your annual salary saved by 30. For Tyler, at $62,000, that means $62,000 by his 30th birthday. He has less than $5,000. The gap between where he is and where he should be is already enormous, and it gets exponentially harder to close with every year that passes. Here's the simplest version of the right move. If your employer offers a 401k match, that is a guaranteed 50 to 100% return on your contribution before the market does a single thing. On Tyler's salary, not capturing the full match costs him $1,500 a year in free money. Over a career, that unclaimed match, just the match, nothing else, compounds to somewhere between $300,000 and $664,000. Tyler is turning down free money because he hasn't gotten around to filling out a form. Don't be Tyler. Mistake number 3, he got a car he couldn't actually afford. At 25, Tyler got a new car, a $38,000 mid-size SUV. Nothing down, 72 months, $650 a month. Totally manageable, he told himself. The average new car payment in America right now is $795 a month. Not for a luxury vehicle, that's the average. For trucks and SUVs, payments routinely hit $1,000 or $1,300 a month. Nobody sitting in that dealership opens a compound interest calculator. Nobody asks, what happens if I invest this $650 a month for the 6 years of this loan and then just let that money sit and grow until I retire? Here is the answer: that 6 years of payments invested instead of sent to a bank grows to roughly $660,000 by age 60. That is the wealth Tyler doesn't build because the money is locked into something that started losing value the second he drove it off the lot. Here's the thing about cars that the automotive industry has spent billions making sure you never think about too clearly. A 3-year-old Honda Civic will get Tyler from his apartment to his office just as reliably as that $38,000 SUV. It will not spark the same feeling when he walks up to it in the parking lot. It will also not quietly dismantle his financial future while he sits in traffic listening to podcasts about building wealth. Tyler's car payment is a $513,000 decision disguised as a reasonable monthly expense. Most people in their 20s have at least one of these. Mistake number 4, he kept managing his credit card debt. By 26, Tyler had $5,200 on a credit card, not from anything dramatic. A few months of overspending during a move, some dinners, some Amazon purchases he can't specifically account for, a flight he bought on impulse. The kind of debt that accumulates not because you're irresponsible, but because you're human, and the card is right there in your wallet, making everything feel approximately free until it isn't. Tyler was paying the minimum every month, $104, declining as the balance slowly dropped, keeping up with it. Here's what keeping up at 22% APR actually looks like. At declining minimums, Tyler's $5,200 balance takes over 30 years to pay off. The total he repays isn't $5,200, it's closer to $14,000. He spends $8,800 in interest on purchases he's mostly forgotten about. The burrito that cost $14 cost him $47. The $200 concert ticket cost him $530. Every purchase on that card quietly tripled in price while Tyler made his monthly minimum and told himself he was handling it. The minimum payment is designed to feel like progress. It is specifically engineered to keep you paying for as long as mathematically possible. It's not a repayment plan, it's a subscription to your own debt. The move is mechanical. Throw every available dollar at the highest interest rate debt first. Every dollar applied to 22% interest is a guaranteed 22% return, better than any investment account in existence. Mistake number 5, every raise he got disappeared. At 27, Tyler got a $7,000 raise. Within 4 months, he had nothing to show for it. Not because he blew it, because lifestyle creep is invisible from the inside. The apartment upgrade felt like a natural next step. Eating out more because he could. A couple of extra subscriptions, better versions of things he already had. None of it felt like recklessness. All of it together consumed every dollar of the raise before it had any chance of becoming anything. This is lifestyle creep, and it is the single most universal financial experience of your 20s. Income goes up. Spending recalibrates silently to match it. The gap between what you earn and what you keep, the only number that actually builds wealth, stays completely flat. You feel like you're moving forward because your life looks more expensive, but your net worth tells a different story. Your brain returns to its baseline satisfaction level and starts scanning for the next upgrade. Meanwhile, the monthly costs are permanent. The rule that actually works: treat every raise like half of it doesn't exist. The moment income increases, redirect at least half to automated investments before it ever enters your spending budget. What doesn't hit your checking account can't be gradually reassigned to a nicer version of your existing life. Tyler got 7 raises in his 20s. He invested the raise exactly once. Mistake number 6, he rented based on what he could technically afford. When Tyler moved at 26, he had a choice between a $1,450 apartment and a $1,850 apartment. The $1,850 one had better light, was closer to things he liked, and honestly it just felt more like the life he was working toward. He could afford it. He took it. That $400 difference, a completely reasonable, totally justifiable upgrade, is costing Tyler $904,000. That's $400 a month invested at historical market returns over a 30-year career. Almost $1 million lost for better lighting. The $400 doesn't feel significant because it isn't significant in isolation, but compound interest doesn't care that each component felt small. It multiplies whatever it's given for however long you give it. The honest version of this conversation is that the apartment you choose is one of the 2 or 3 most consequential financial decisions you make in your 20s. It sets your cost floor. Everything else in your budget has to fit underneath it. More than half of all renters in America right now are spending over 30% of their income on housing. A record 22.6 million households officially cost burdened. In most major cities, people in their 20s are spending 40, 45, sometimes 50% of take-home pay on rent before touching a single other expense. Tyler chose the good light. He'll be paying for that good light for a very long time. Mistake number 7, he built his budget on a number that doesn't exist. Here's one that catches almost everyone in the first year of a real salary, including Tyler. The offer letter said $62,000. Tyler did the math. Roughly $5,166 a month. He found an apartment, figured out a car payment, started sketching out what his life would look like. All of it based on $5,166. His first paycheck was $3,380. Federal income tax, state income tax, FICA, under health insurance premiums, the 401k contribution he'd set up. The gap between what the offer letter said and what actually landed in his account was $1,786 a month, over $21,000 a year that existed on paper but not in his bank. Tyler had already committed to a rent, a car payment, and a cost of life built around the gross number. Now he was $500 short every month from day one, and the only way to fill that gap was a credit card. Which is exactly how the $5,200 balance from mistake number 4 got started. Run every budget on net what physically deposits. The gross number is for telling people at parties. Mistake number 8, he spent money to keep up with people who were also broke. Tyler's friend group looked from the outside like people who were doing well. Regular dinners at places with small portions and large checks. Trips that appeared on Instagram with the casual frequency that implies nobody is checking their bank account beforehand. The whole performance of a peer group that's arrived. Tyler kept up. Which meant spending in a way that had almost nothing to do with what he actually wanted and almost everything to do with what he thought everyone else was doing. Here's what he didn't know. The friend who always picked up rounds had 2 credit cards running near their limit and was 3 months behind on a student loan he'd never mentioned. The girl who went on 3 trips that year financed 2 of them at 24% APR on a travel card she'd been carrying a balance on since 2021. The guy with the apartment that looked like a catalog had recently calculated, in a moment of unwanted clarity, that he was spending 52% of his take-home pay on housing. Everyone was performing. Nobody was winning. Research from Empower found that 51% of Americans say seeing what others buy on social media motivates spending they wouldn't otherwise do. Roughly 70% of Gen Z experiences financial FOMO, twice the rate of millennials. The average person in their 20s spends over $400 a month on non-essentials, more than twice what older generations spend in the same categories, because they're the first generation to have their entire social life mediated by a platform engineered to make everyone else's life look like an aspirational highlight reel 24 hours a day. The wealth that's real is almost always invisible. The people actually building it aren't performing it. They're too busy quietly maxing out their Roth IRA while everyone else is funding the appearance of financial confidence on a Visa. Mistake number 9. He ignored his credit score until it cost him thousands. Tyler thought about his credit score roughly as often as he thought about his car's transmission, which is to say, never until something went wrong. At 28, he tried to rent a new apartment. The landlord pulled his credit. His score was 631, not a disaster, but not good. He got the apartment, but the landlord required an extra month of security deposit. Fine. Then at 29, he went to refinance his car loan to a lower rate. The quote came back at 13.4%. His coworker, who had a 775 score, was quoted 6.1% on the same loan amount. Over the same term, Tyler was paying $4,900 more in interest for no reason other than neglecting something he could have fixed in a few months for free. Your credit score is not a moral judgment. It is a financial instrument you are either managing or you're not. And the cost of not managing it is extremely specific and extremely avoidable. The difference between a $680 and a $760 on a $300,000 mortgage isn't a rounding error. It's $50,000 to $80,000 over the life of the loan. The whole system rewards boring, consistent behavior. Pay on time, keep credit utilization below 30%, don't close old accounts. If you have no credit history, get a secured card, use it for gas, pay it in full every month, and you'll have a real score within a year. Tyler knew this. He just never got around to doing it, which is, in a sentence, the theme of every mistake on this list. Mistake number 10, he was paying for 23 things he'd forgotten about. Last one, and this one is almost funny until you run the actual numbers. Studies show that people underestimate their monthly subscriptions by an average of $133. Tyler, at the time we're checking in on him, has Netflix, Hulu, a Disney Plus bundle he got for a free trial and never canceled, Spotify, Apple Music from before he switched to Spotify, iCloud storage at 2 tiers because he kept ignoring the notification to manage his photos, Amazon Prime, a meal kit service he uses maybe once a month, a news publication he subscribed to for one specific article during an argument, a gym membership he goes to on a schedule best described as spiritually, and that meditation app he downloaded in January when he had a moment of genuine self-improvement intention and has opened exactly twice since. Tyler is spending $230 a month on subscriptions. He thinks he's spending about $80. The $150 difference he doesn't know about is $1,800 a year. Over 30 years at historical returns, it's $339,000. Not from anything dramatic, from a meditation app and a news site and a streaming service he couldn't be bothered to cancel during a free trial. The audit takes 20 minutes. Open your last 3 months of bank statements. Highlight every recurring charge. For each one, ask a single question. Would I immediately notice if this was gone? If the answer is any version of probably not, it's gone. Tyler hasn't done this audit. Every month, $230 leaves his account while he's not paying attention, which is exactly what it was designed to do. The salary he didn't negotiate, conservatively $400,000 in lifetime earnings lost, the decade of investing he delayed, a $1.2 million gap in retirement savings. The car payment he could have invested instead, $660,000, the raises that disappeared into lifestyle upgrades, $200,000 to $400,000, the rent upgrade, $904,000, the subscriptions he forgot about, $339,000, the credit score he neglected, $50,000 in excess interest. Tyler didn't do anything dramatic. He just did what most people around him were doing. The total sits somewhere between $3.7 million and $4.1 million in wealth he should have had. Here's the uncomfortable truth underneath all of this. The financial system is not designed to make your 20s easy to navigate correctly. The car dealership makes more money when you finance more. The credit card company makes more money when you carry a balance. Instagram doesn't show you the credit card statement that funded the trip. Nobody in any of these transactions has an incentive to tell you what this video just told you, that every dollar you let compound in your 20s becomes $10 or $15 by the time you actually need it, and every dollar that goes to a car loan or a minimum payment or a forgotten subscription is a dollar that just disappears. Tyler's going to be fine eventually, but he's going to figure most of this out at 35 or 38, which means he'll spend the first chunk of his 40s rebuilding a position his 20s quietly dismantled. That's a real cost, measured not just in dollars, but in options, jobs he can't afford to leave, risks he can't afford to take. A life built increasingly around financial obligation rather than financial freedom. You don't have to be Tyler. None of this requires exceptional discipline or a financial background. It requires negotiating the salary, starting the account, buying the boring car, paying off the card, not spending the raise, and doing the 20-minute subscription audit. The people who look financially free at 45 weren't doing anything extraordinary at 25. They just did the ordinary things while everyone else was planning to start next year. Your 20s aren't a practice round. The clock is already running. Start now.